Layer 1. The Slender Man. Probably one of the most iconic internet horror creatures, this monster appeared the first time during a Photoshop competition for the forum Something Awful in 2009 and has since become an icon of internet horror pop culture. A tall, thin, pale humanoid with no facial features, wearing a suit and known for abducting children. Just mentioning this name will probably bring back nostalgia to people who have been active on the internet around those years. Jeff the Killer. From the highly popular and titular creepypasta of Jeff the Killer, this story revolves around the serial killing spree of a disfigured, angsty teenager who quite literally turned into the Joker by carving a permanent smile on his face. This creepypasta has undergone a large number of rewrites and iterations, from Jeff's disfigurement being caused by a group of bullies bleaching and setting his face on fire, to him accidentally splashing a gallon of acid on his face by slipping on a soap bar in his bathroom. Ben Drowned. From the creepypasta with the same titular name, Ben was an entity formed by a group of spirits haunting a cartridge from The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask. This creepypasta and the entity described within became highly popular due to the game it was based on being already quite popular at the time and featuring various creepy elements by itself, such as the Link statue from the Elegy of Emptiness, the Happy Mask Salesman, and the Moon. These designs by themselves are actually quite unsettling, and I'm not surprised they inspired the creation of a creepypasta revolved around them. Herobrine. Anyone who's ever played Minecraft at any point will probably recognize this name. At some point, a rumor began spreading through the Minecraft player base under the form of a creepy story regarding the existence of a paranormal entity within the game, rumored to be Marcus Person's dead brother spirit haunting the game, appearing through single-player worlds to mess with people. Minecraft actually incorporated this internet legend in their game, and while Herobrine was never officially added into Minecraft, they made a tradition to add the phrase "removed Herobrine" at the end of their update logs as a sort of a running gag, and to give people the impression that no matter how many times it's removed, it seems to always come back. Smile Dog. An entity resembling a creepy smiling husky dog. This entity, original to the Smile Dog creepypasta, presumably resided within a haunted JPEG image, known to drive insane those who will see it and causing them to start noticing its presence everywhere. The victims will begin suffering epileptic seizures and begin seeing this creature in their dreams, which will encourage them to further spread the cursed picture to others, sort of like a mimetic virus. Dream Man. Speaking of dreams, perhaps the most popular internet creature or humanoid related to dreams is the Dream Man. In 2008, a website called Ever Dreamed This Man appeared on the internet, creating the narrative of a person appearing in multiple people's dreams worldwide, encouraging you to contact the site and report its appearance. Over time, the site garnered a lot of popularity, with the story behind it spreading like wildfire and thousands of people sharing their experiences and reporting seeing that very person in their dreams. It was later on confirmed for the story to be a hoax created by Andrea Natella, an Italian sociologist, as a sort of a marketing stunt. I think the interesting part of this story was just how many people were tricked, not only to the point of believing this to be real in the first place, but to convince themselves of its credibility to the point of dreaming the man themselves, effectively turning this into an actual real story, sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The Rake. Another classic creepypasta creature, the Rake is a pale, emaciated humanoid creature, often associated with this particular image. A feral monstrosity that dwells in the woods, attacking its victims by stalking them over prolonged periods of times and ultimately invading their homes, more often than not attempting to catch them by surprise. Sonic.exe. From the Sonic.exe series, the titular main antagonist of the series is an entity taking the appearance of Sonic the Hedgehog and haunting a Sonic video game, causing it to corrupt and featuring various disturbing gory events. Anyone who will play the video game will end up being haunted by this corrupted version of Sonic in their dreams, eventually leading to the victims becoming corrupted themselves and leading to commit horrific acts. The SCP creatures. This is more of a collection in a collection of creatures, but if I had to count each and every SCP creature individually, I think I'd be here for far too long. The SCP Foundation is a collaborative internet writing project where users from the SCP Wiki have been writing entries for a fictional foundation, each entry detailing a paranormal creature, object, location, or phenomenon. Some of the most known ones include, but are not limited to, SCP-173, a statue that moves only when not observed and will attempt to snap your neck; SCP-096, a tall, pale humanoid who is generally docile but will proceed to devour anyone who sees his face, even in a recording or photograph; SCP-106, a humanoid creature resembling an old man capable of passing through walls and kidnapping people, taking them in a pocket dimension, where he will proceed to sadistically hunt them afterwards; and SCP-682, a large immortal lizard monster, extremely smart, extremely adaptable, and extremely angry at everyone and everything at all times. The Backrooms creatures. In the same page as before, you've probably heard of the Backrooms, another collaborative internet writing project where people write entries for endless liminal spaces located in an alternate dimension called the Backrooms. These backrooms are also populated by various monstrosities such as the Smilers, the Partygoers, the Death Moths, and the Wretches. If you're interested about the SCP Foundation and the backrooms, in fact I do have a video where I go a little bit more in depth about them and then compare the two. It'll show up on the right top corner of the video if I don't forget to include it. Siren Head, an extremely tall emaciated humanoid with, you guessed it, sirens instead of its head, capable of emitting siren noises, radio broadcasts, and sometimes human voices. This creature was created by Trevor Henderson. While I did want to include some of Trevor Henderson's creatures in this Iceberg later on, I thought that Siren Head deserved to be a little bit more at the top, given that this is probably his most popular creation so far, to the point of inspiring in itself different games and media. The Intruder. You better believe it, this guy right here, he is inside your home. Probably the most popular and iconic character from the Mandela Catalog analoghorror series by Alex Kister, the Intruder became over time more of a meme if anything. Its initial aspect was definitely inspired by those uncanny police suspect sketches. In fact, he might actually be one, but don't quote me on that. The Intruder, as the name suggests, is this supernatural entity who acts like a home intruder, entering people's homes at night, tormenting its victims. Eyeless Jack. With the first photo appearing on 4chan in 2010, it will later on inspire a creepypasta with the same name in 2012. Eyeless Jack is a humanoid figure with pitch black eye sockets and a hoodie, known for invading people's homes at night and harvesting their organs. Archangel Gabriel, another creature from the Mandela Catalog. The Archangel Gabriel is essentially the main antagonist of the series and the first alternate on Earth. He is depicted like a corrupted version of an angel wearing a long white robe, with long blonde and wavy hair, with his alternate form presenting a large unnerving smile and large eyes, and it is implied for him to be responsible to prevent Christ from being born, taking its place instead as the one true savior of humanity in an attempt to deceive humans into worshipping him. Alternate. The alternates from the Mandela Catalog, while the Intruder and the Archangel Gabriel that I already mentioned were iconic and noble by themselves enough to deserve their own entry, this particular entry refers to every alternate in the series. In the Mandela Catalog, alternates are creatures with the ability to imperfectly copy the appearances of other humans. While they've been present throughout the entirety of history, alternates appear to have increasingly surged in numbers in the events of the Mandela Catalog, now waging a full-on war against humanity, adopting psychological warfare tactics, attempting to drive people to insanity, while slowly but steadily increasing their own numbers by replacing more and more of the people that are left. The FNAF animatronics. Probably the most iconic series of horror games at this point, Five Nights at Freddy's began as a simple point-and-click horror game and over the years evolved into a true cultural phenomenon, with books, movies, merchandise, and its iconic characters becoming known worldwide. The animatronics are most of the time depicted as robots of anthropomorphic animals possessed by souls of dead children. While their motives and backstories vary from animatronic to animatronic, it's undoubtable that they've become iconic in terms of internet horror. Walton Files animatronics. Similar as before, this entry refers to the animatronics from the Walton Files, a FNAF-inspired found-footage horror series on YouTube. The series revolves around a restaurant named Bond's Burgers and the odd events around it, with the various animatronics, especially Bond the Dancing Rabbit, serving as the main antagonists. The Gemini organisms. From the analog horror series Gemini Home Entertainment, the organisms are various alien parasites and monstrosities from the Iris, a planet-wide eye organism located between the orbits of Neptune and Pluto. The Iris appears to be the center of the Gemini hive mind and in control of other organisms, such as the roots, the wood crawlers, and the fake people, which have been sent to Earth in order to slowly take it over. Vita carnis, a species of living flesh organisms from the Vita carnis analoghorror. They encompass a great variety of different subspecies, with some being docile and even useful to society, such as the Mutuari carnis, or the meat snakes, who will devour rotting bodies and cadavers, maintaining areas clean and eliminating potential sources of bacterial infections, to other outright dangerous and predatory species, such as the Trucidatum carnis, or the mimic, a tall bipedal creature whose life cycle during its adulthood will require it to hunt humans by stalking them over periods of times, eventually evolving to resemble humans themselves, making it easier to acquire prey. Fan 228, also known as the Boiled One, it's the titular creature from the analoghorror video The Boiled One Phenomenon, perhaps one of Dr. Nowhere's most iconic creations, a demonic cognitohazardous monster whose main power is hijacking television channels in order to transmit itself. Witnessing Fan's 228's face is enough to trigger a cognitohazard infection, which will cause the infected person to become unable to forget its face and hear sounds of trumpets. Going to sleep after witnessing the Boiled One will cause the person to enter a pseudocoma, becoming unable to move or communicate except by blinking. While Dr. Nowhere was responsible for creating many iconic horror creatures, I think this one deserved its separate entry from the sheer amount of attention it received. Dr. Nowhere. This entry refers to the rest of the creatures from Dr. Nowhere, including but not limited to Philbus, the Locust, Father Faster. Dr. Nowhere has been pulling nightmare fuel after nightmare fuel in terms of designs for monsters and creatures, and it's no surprise that many of them have become truly iconic and easily recognizable in terms of horror creatures. Trollge. While initially starting as a meme, the troll face was perhaps one of the most known memes ever made. It cemented itself as the mascot of trolling and of internet trolls. This meme died in popularity at a certain point, but history is like a circle, it repeats itself, and the troll face will later on resurface under a new uncanny iteration as the Trollge, a corrupted version of this mascot used in disquieting meme format to depict a horror situation, similarly to the whole Mr. Incredible becoming uncanny format. It is kind of fascinating how the whole irony beyond reusing this meme caused it to sort of shift in its tone, becoming more and more associated with horror than anything else. The Rolling Giant. While Kane Pixels will become most known for its backrooms found footage, the one creature that will become truly iconic and highly recognizable while also spreading around the internet in horror context, it will be the Rolling Giant. From the series The Oldest View, this papier-mâché depiction of Julian Reverchon, a French botanist born in 1837, will serve as a fantastic horror antagonist. Its design is disquieting and mysterious. It doesn't walk, it just rolls. And given the fact that it never appears to move its arms or even blink, simply rolling forward as if pushed by an external force, one can even say at any given time if this creature was even truly alive. Regardless, the Rolling Giant became a pretty well-known horror entity. Alright, it's time for us to go a little bit deeper. We've explored the top of the iceberg with probably some of the most known and iconic horror creatures and entities from the internet. We're now going to take a deep breath and go beneath the surface of the iceberg, taking a look at various entries that are still well known to the general public but might actually be a mystery to those who are not particularly fond of horror in itself. Starting off with Zalgo. Zalgo was the internet's equivalent of an old eldritch Lovecraftian entity. Well, this entity initially originated from something awful, the point of origin for a lot of horror stuff back at the time, and by back at the time I'm talking about the 2004 internet era. The whole shtick around Zalgo was the Zalgo text, which will use various Unicode symbols with diacritics in order to create this sort of cursed font. The format revolved around using this cursed text to corrupt comics, stories, and proselytize the arrival or the presence of Zalgo. Who exactly or what exactly Zalgo is was never clearly established, but Zalgo is coming. Long Horse, another fantastic creation by Trevor Henderson. The Long Horse is this creature depicted as a horse skull with an unnaturally long multi-jointed spine or neck. It presents no legs or other limbs and is often depicted as extending from hidden or dark spots, giving no clear indication of how long this long horse might actually be. I'm gonna put the rest of Trevor Henderson's creatures in this entry as well, because quoting them one by one will actually take up the majority of this video. Who knows, maybe I'll make a separate video just for that at some point. The Doll Maker. This was a popular internet creepy story, especially when the whole thing about the dark web was at its peak. And people refer to the dark web or the darknet as this sort of place filled up to the brim with boogeyman, cursed item auctions, hitmen, and anything they could think of. The Doll Maker refers to this supposed and alleged person on the dark web who will kidnap women and transform them into living dolls through a highly gruesome and cruel process, only to later on sell them to buyers on the dark web. It was the internet horror's equivalent of Jeffrey Epstein, essentially, and while the Doll Maker might be just an internet legend and not real, the list definitely is. Don't let this video distract you from the fact that they haven't still released it fully. Burnt Luigi. This entry is referencing a creepypasta regarding a haunted copy of Super Mario 64, hiding within it a weird and creepy version of Luigi. The story and the entity is essentially in the same ballpark as Ben Drowned or Sonic.exe or other similar creepypasta entities that reside within haunted copies of a certain video game. 3 AM entities. There was a time on the internet and on YouTube especially when people, or well, kids mostly, believe that calling certain numbers or doing certain activities at 3 AM will cause the apparition of ghosts or entities. This whole thing was a huge trend on YouTube, with different YouTubers capitalizing on it and even building entire channels around the premise of calling certain people at 3 AM like the Boss Baby or SpongeBob. I mean, long story short, it was crap. You wouldn't get scared by that stuff unless you were like 3 years old, which was also the general audience of these channels, unlike my channel that has a very mature audience. The Server Blight, a creature similar to the monster from The Thing by John Carpenter, but in Team Fortress 2. An entity that presumably resides within the online part of the game, hunting and absorbing players within itself, learning how to mimic human behavior in order to lure in more people and more prey. You should totally check it out. Just look up Server Blight on YouTube. It's a great watch. The Interloper entities. This entry groups up essentially all of the weird entities from the ARG series Interloper. This series is a fantastic ARG themed around secrets hidden within Valve's source engine. The creatures within it are eerie, bizarre, and creepy, and are apparently intent on guarding some sort of secret hidden within the source engine, while also taking note and making sure to haunt anyone coming too close to discovering said secret. I won't spoil you anything from this series, but I do heavily recommend you to give it a try. It's probably one of the best ARGs out there, it's incredibly well made, and it's incredibly unsettling. Charlie. Remember that? Similarly to the whole 3 AM shtick, this also used to be a trend on the internet, where people would film themselves placing 2 pencils on a piece of paper that would read yes and no. The whole thing about the game was that you'd ask Charlie, an alleged supernatural entity, a question, and the pencil would indicate yes or no based on the answer that Charlie would give. The whole trick of it was that you'd actually use your mouth to blow on the pencil and cause it to move around. Similarly to the whole 3 AM challenge, there were people who, for some reason, actually believed in the spirit of Charlie, turning the whole thing into a viral trend. The Obelisk creatures. From the analoghorror series on YouTube titled Obelisk, it features a couple of eerie monsters that in the series lore are apparently invading people's homes, corrupting and reshaping them into something different. Pretty good series, and the design of the creatures is also pretty great. The Dogman. This is from another analoghorror series, Dog Nightmares. The Dogman is what we could consider to be the main antagonist, a man with a dog's tail and the head of a dog bearing human teeth. In the series, it is observed stalking a girl called Emily, haunting her childhood home and residing in dark areas. The GTA Mythos. Now this is a blast to the past. The GTA series was never a stranger to mystery and urban legends, especially GTA San Andreas. There's actually many internet legends surrounding a particular location from San Andreas, specifically Mount Chiliad. The game itself had some creepy Easter eggs, such as the ghost cars that would appear in the forest of nowhere with a broken texture that will remain even after being repaired, or the graffito that would appear only at night in the graveyard. But people like to speculate on all sorts of other mysteries that remain to this day unconfirmed. such as the existence of Bigfoot or other creatures. There was actually a mod made back at the time called the Mysterix mod, which will feature a great variety of these conspiracies. Negative Mickey, a version of Mickey Mouse but with its colors swapped to those of a photo negative. This is from the creepypasta Abandoned by Disney, with the photo negative version of Mickey being supposedly a human trapped within a rotting costume or a version of Mickey Mouse itself that has gained sentience. The Grifter, a pre-old creepypasta from 4chan. Apparently at some point on 4chan a snuff film began circulating on the various boards, especially the X board. The video itself apparently had a sort of reputation on 4chan, and people refer to the creator of the video as the Grifter, claiming that watching this video would cause you to become nauseous, suffer terrible nightmares, and that the imagery within it will haunt you for the rest of your life until it would all be too much to take. While the full video in itself wasn't posted, certain users will claim to have screenshots from the video. Apparently the whole thing was a hoax. Obviously, don't trust anything on 4chan, and the alleged imagery of the video was from a Czech film called Lil Otik. Godzilla NAS, another old creepypasta. It tells the tale about someone named Zach who will end up playing a corrupted version of the game Godzilla Monster of Monsters for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This copy will feature various glitches, new content, and new monsters altogether, with the most notorious one being Red, a supernatural demonic entity haunting the copy of the game. AI Skinwalkers. This entry isn't about any specific entity, rather a group of entities. With the recent development in AI, social media bots whose purpose is to either promote a product or share propaganda online have become more and more frequent, and by each day more and more undistinguishable from real human beings, creating what is essentially the internet's equivalent of a skinwalker, pretty much the dead internet theory. It's pretty much that. It's not much, but it's real, and we've reached the point on the internet where we can't really trust anyone. Posts on Twitter, on Facebook, comments on YouTube, and so on forth, made by people who might seem real at first, only to be in fact bots made to replicate human speech behaviors as accurately as possible, and at times even replying to comments in an attempt to add more authenticity to their false identity. It is literally the equivalent of skinwalkers on the internet. Monument Mythos creatures. From the titular horror series on YouTube, Monument Mythos, this series is set in a paranormal alternate reality, with the plot revolving around the idea of various entities, creatures, and secrets being hidden within various known monuments, especially within America. An example of that will be the Lincoln Lookers. Lincoln Lookers were essentially citizens handpicked by the president without a trial or objection that for as long as the president will remain in office, the Lincoln Lookers were forced within the Lincoln Memorial statue, where they will slowly undergo a monstrous transformation. A woman, a former Lincoln Looker, will reveal that once trapped within, you'd find yourself in a cold, dark environment, being fed nothing but soup every day. This woman will reveal that she was freed 2 weeks afterwards, as President Reagan would apologize to her, revealing that she was not meant to become a Lincoln Looker and was mistaken for someone else. I don't know about you, but the core idea of the president being able to just handpick someone they heavily disliked as a person and having to do so due to a tradition and subjecting them to this torture is pretty dark. The rest of the monument mythos is just this, different creatures or secrets hidden within various monuments. I heavily recommend it, it's pretty great. We have now reached the third layer and we are now at the bottom of the iceberg. Entities beyond this point are either ones that have been long forgotten or that there is little to nothing known with certainty about their origins. You'll notice a few known ones here and there, but chances are that you wouldn't even have thought of them before watching this video. Blank Room Soup Dolls. An old video from a decade ago will feature a man eating a soup with a large wooden spoon. Soon enough, the man will start crying as two doll-like figures will attempt comforting him by patting his head and back. And that's it. That's all there is to it. Multiple videos have been released over the years featuring the same characters in a similar scenario, and theories have mounted regarding who the man is, but more importantly, who the ones costumed as dolls comforting him are. There is a whole narrative surrounding these videos suggesting that they might be part of a snuff film, with other theories suggesting it to be simply an art project or a video made to simply disturb the audience. Regardless of it, if you've been on the internet for a long while, this is the kind of stuff that will disturb you as a kid or as a teenager, the kind of thing you'd watch and go like, man, I'm on the weird side of the internet again. Wario apparition. This entry refers to a giant disembodied head of Wario, an anomalous entity within Super Mario 64 that will act as an enemy, chasing down the player in certain locations. The Wario apparition isn't guaranteed to show up frequently, in fact it isn't guaranteed to appear at all, rather its presence is associated with that of a conspiracy theory in the Super Mario 64 fandom, which claims that every copy of Mario 64 is personalized and tailored to cater to each individual person. While the games might all look similar, every game played will have certain differences, some more notable than others, in terms of gameplay, difficulty, or anomalies, which is why some people might experience the Wario apparition while others never will. Personally, this might be my one favorite video game related conspiracy theory. Obunga. This is kind of a stupid one. Obunga refers to a series of images depicting a weird hybrid between Obama and the giant mutant cockroaches from Terraformers. The image initially appeared on 4chan, but it's unknown who the original author is, and is used generally in threads regarding cursed images. The image became highly viral at some point, as a lot of people on social media began using it as a quote-unquote scary face for horror jump scares on various videos, with the image itself also becoming a popular Gmod next bot at some point, cementing itself in the internet horror community. The community who thinks that static PNGs chasing you in Gmod are scary for some reason. But hey, to each their own. I'm not here to judge, I make YouTube videos for a living, so I'm not allowed to criticize how you spend your free time. And if you think that having an Obunga PNG chase you around Gmod maps is peak entertainment, then that's great. Glad you're having fun at least. The Scary Maze Woman. If you're an old head, you probably remember Scary Maze. It was this old game where you'd have to guide this square in a maze without touching the walls. The final section of the maze featured some tight passages, meaning you'd have to focus on the screen really closely in order to not touch the walls. And about halfway through, the game will capitalize on the fact that you were so hyper-focused by jump-scaring you with a picture of the possessed woman from the Exorcist movie from 1973. The whole point of that game was for you to show it to one of your friends and challenge them to complete the maze, while hopefully filming their reactions at the jump scare. Back then, this was literally the best way to make YouTube views. Just have one of your friends or family members sit down and record them playing Scary Maze, and boom, you're suddenly a celebrity. The internet surely was different back then. Ori Sheth, an internet urban legend about the Facebook account of a woman who will post the same photos over and over, while each and every person in her friend list was just another version of herself, photoshopped to look slightly different. Some of the profiles apparently also contained gory images and posts about how she would want to eat her children. The whole thing obviously turned out to be a hoax, don't quote me on this, but I think that it was revealed by Ori herself that all of those profiles were made for Facebook games. You know, those games where you get rewarded stuff for inviting more and more people. And the whole gore thing and the weird posts were just her trying to mess with people. She was doing just a little bit of trolling. Teresa Fidalgo. This was a popular entity back in the day, which people will learn about from chain messages. If you don't know what a chain message is, while they are perhaps not as popular nowadays, they used to be everywhere years ago. There were those kind of messages that will go like, if you read this message, forward it to 10 friends before midnight or you will die. The original message was a Portuguese, as Teresa Fidalgo was a Portuguese character from a movie, and in English it will be translated into, "Hello, I'm Teresa Fidalgo. Today I've been dead for 27 years. If you don't pass this on to 20 people, I'll sleep by your side forever. If you don't believe this, look it up on Google. Teresa Fidalgo. Send this to 20 people. A girl ignored it, and her mother died 20 days later." This for some reason became a very popular chain message back at the time. In fact, you'd see different iterations of it in multiple places, translated in different languages, but the constant element was the presence of Teresa Fidalgo, which turned her into this internet ghost essentially. Shadow Lurker. This one actually has many names. The Shadow Lurker, the Never Alone Guy, the Uninvited Guest, the Horrifying House Guest. This was one of the faces used for those old Rage comics. The way Rage comics worked is that every one of those characters was meant to represent a different emotion or situation. The shadow lurker was used in a relatable scary situation memes or the epic rage comics. He will be the guy watching you shower while you close your eyes. He will be the guy running after you when you turn off the lights and race to the bed. And he will be the guy watching you from a corner of your room when you couldn't sleep at night, or attempt to grab you by your feet if you took them off your blanket. It was essentially this universal character meant to represent this scary presence in your house, especially as a child or as a teen. It became quite popular in memes back at the time. Honestly, I think that Trollage might actually be a combination of the shadow lurker and the troll face. History truly does repeat itself. The Dud. In the 7th season of The Simpsons episode Summer of 452, there is a scene where Homer, Marge, Bart, and Milhouse are sitting around the table playing the board game Mystery Date. In Mystery Date, the goal is to get you guessed it, a date with the various bachelors, such as the captain of the football team or the rich guy who goes skiing, among other dream date stereotypes, while also attempting to avoid the dud, which is usually presented as the scrawny, nerdy stereotype. In the original Simpsons scene, Bart gets the dud, which causes Marge to start laughing and Homer to open his mouth in a slow, creepy smile. For some reason, this inspired the Simpson community to commence a new type of Simpson posting centered around the dud, depicting it as this mysterious entity that would appear at times with creepy eerie music in the background, causing people witnessing it to begin smiling slowly and creepily, like Homer does in the original scene. Hatman. The Hatman is a dark entity wearing a large hat. It became a highly popular entity on the internet, highly present in only discourse regarding schizophrenia hallucinations, sleep paralysis, or pharmaceutical abuse. It is often mentioned on Reddit and 4chan, and it became this sort of mascot or urban legend, as multiple people on the internet claim to have encountered it, especially after abusing Benadryl. It became sort of a meme over the years more than anything. Ouija. This is another old head entry, a character that was quite popular especially in old YouTube poops. Ouija was this uncanny hand-drawn corrupted version of Luigi. It was based on the original sprite of Luigi from the game Mario is Missing. Its blank stare and rigid posture was quite unnerving at the time, turning into this horror meme that would appear in practically any context. The Snail. You've probably heard of the immortal snail, and if you haven't, it's this hypothetical scenario that was highly popular on the internet at some point, where you'd become ultra rich and immortal, but you'd be constantly hunted by an immortal snail who will be aware of your location at all times. If the snail managed to reach and touch you, you'd be dead. For some reason, this turned into a huge viral thing, with people online turning the snail into an entity of its own through memes, videos, stories, and even mods or video games. Gorefield. One of the biggest trends surrounding Garfield online is that of Gorefield, with subreddits and forums dedicated entirely to essentially depicting Garfield as an eldritch monstrosity, as a spider-like creature, or as a world-ending godlike entity. I think the whole trend started in 2013 when the artist Double Baby posted a comic depicting Garfield consuming John's house, and from there everything began spiraling down, with various artists actually taking this as a sort of a challenge to attempt and create the most vile, disturbing and monstrous version of Garfield as possible, with Gorefield even becoming an SCP in the SCP community, named SCP-3166. Alright, and with this we are now approaching the end of the video. Before going further, I'd like to take a moment to ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you've enjoyed it so far. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I always enjoy reading what you guys have to say, and with this, let's descend into layer 4, the Abyss. The Theater Ticket Taker. This entity is from an old creepypasta about a mysterious game called The Theater. The Theater was this unfinished weird game about a guy entering a theater to watch a movie, and the entire game would feature only one NPC called the Ticket Taker. The Ticket Taker was, well, the name kind of spells it out, the guy at the entrance responsible for taking your ticket. But while it will look humanoid at first, upon closer inspection one will realize that its face was distorted in a swirl. Even at the time this was a bit of an obscure thing, but I do remember finding what I assumed to be a fan game of this creepypasta back at the time as a kid and playing it. The game itself wasn't particularly scary, except for one section of the game, which would cause it to crash while blaring out some loud noise, and then cause your computer to begin opening its DVD reader, which actually scared the shit out of me as a kid. I was expecting a jump scare. I was not expecting my computer to suddenly open its DVD reader for no reason. I think I was like 10 or 11 at the time, and that thing scared me so bad that I actually started crying. From that day, the ticket taker was actually burned in my memory. The Google Maps balcony creature. The origin of this creature was from a post on 4chan on the X board. A user would instruct people with Google Maps coordinates that would reveal a mysterious creature on a balcony somewhere in France. While that could be nothing more than a Halloween decoration or a weird prop for something, the weird part about it was that later on, while the users on 4chan were actually discussing what that creature could be, Google somehow ended up blurring it, raising questions as to why would Google need to blur what could have simply been a costume or a puppet. In fact, if you go check it out yourself now, the entire section appears to be blurred. The Midnight Man. The Midnight Man is the titular antagonist of the Midnight Game, a game whose rules were initially published on 4chan as a sort of creepypasta. The game revolved around the idea of performing a ritual in your home and having all of your lights off from midnight to 3:33 am, save for a candle that one would hold in their hand. The game essentially required you to navigate your home with nothing but the candle and make sure that it wouldn't get blown out. If the candle did get blown out, you'd have 10 seconds to light it back up, or else the Midnight Man will get you. This was actually a pretty cool creepypasta, which ended up inspiring a few games and movies later on. Tara the Android. This entry refers to a creepy video of a robot or an android singing a song inside a house, with the video titled "I Feel Fantastic." The video went viral at some point, especially since a lot of conspiracies began circulating around the video and the android itself, becoming essentially a big part of the internet horror, with people throwing theories left and right, with some believing that the one posting the video to be a serial killer and dressing the android with the clothes of its victims. Röetgi. I'm probably not pronouncing this right, but yeah. An internet Turkish urban legend originating from around 2014. Röetgi was this entity rumored to be a dark web hitman that people could hire. There isn't much known about this particular entity except the fact that it appears as an antagonist in a creepypasta named Cihan Karga. Yeah, I definitely butchered that. I apologize. This is a pretty obscure internet horror entity, and I wouldn't be surprised if you hadn't heard of it. I mean, I hadn't heard of it personally before making this video either. If any of you are Turkish, let me know down in the comments if this is actually a popular creepypasta in Turkey. The Elevator Woman. The Elevator Woman is an entity from the Elevator game. The Elevator game is an art ritual that was spread on the internet similarly to the Midnight Man game, where in order to play, the player will need to enter an elevator from a building with at least 10 floors. They'd need to press the button for the 4th floor, then the 2nd, then 6th, 2nd again, 10th floor, and then 5th floor, requiring to start all over if someone entered or left the elevator at any point. The only exception will be made at the 5th floor, where according to the rules of the game, there is a chance for a woman to enter the elevator. The rules put heavy emphasis on the fact that one shouldn't interact with that woman in any way whatsoever. Do not answer her questions, do not look at her, for she is not human. The goal is press the button for the 1st floor afterwards, and if the game was performed correctly, one will instead be taken to the 10th floor, where the woman will attempt to once again trick the players by asking them questions such as, "Where are you going?" in an attempt to cause a response. Once arriving on the 10th floor, the players will have to leave, ignoring the woman, and they will find themselves transported into another world, where the windows would show nothing but a red cross in the distance. Returning back to the regular world will be just as simple. One would essentially need to go back in the elevator and perform the same number sequence as previously. I hope you've all enjoyed this video. For me personally, it was really fun to just look up a bunch of horror and spooky creatures that became popular on the internet over the years. As always, I'd like to thank this channel's members for their support. If you'd like to join them, you can do so by pressing the join button down below. Don't forget to leave a like to this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Feel free to also join my Discord server if you ever want to chat or suggest me ideas for new videos on things you'd like to see me cover. With this being said, I hope you have a good night and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.